Welcome to the Forge and Foundry podcast with your hosts, Tony Swatton and Kerry Stagmer. Welcome to another episode of Forge and Foundry podcast with Tony Swatton and Kerry Stagmer, and we have Ellen Durkan and Derick Kemper, both people who have worked on Man-at-Arms with us in some manner, either the TV show or the web series. And we really are looking forward to this one because this is quite a crew, and we've all had some adventures and some experiences together. So if we could have Ellen give us a little intro and tell us about her education and where she comes from and how she got it started smithing, and then we'll switch over to Derick. But first, let's hear about today's sponsor. We all know that Tony is pretty much off-grid when it comes to playing any type of video game, but the same can't be said about me. However, between my busy schedule of working in a forge and recording a podcast, I need a mobile game that's fun, engaging, and has plenty of content. I'm talking about a game with over 800 unique champions, a super detailed and tactical RPG battle system, incredible graphics, and my personal favorite, plenty of PvP fun. I'm talking about the hit mobile game Raid Shadow Legends, and there's never been a better time to start playing. Raid is celebrating the arrival of spring in Terraria with a special Spring Hunt minigame where you could win real-life prizes like a gaming console or Amazon gift cards with a total value of $10,000. Click my link in the description or scan my QR code to get exclusive bonuses available only via my link. New players will immediately receive a huge starter pack with the Epic Champion Tyrell, along with another starter pack after reaching level 25 that includes the Epic Champion Rector Drath. Don't forget these champions are only available after downloading Raid Shadow Legends via my custom link or QR code. After downloading the game via my link, use the promo code SPRINGHUNT24 to receive even more bonuses and a bunch of silver. Once you're in, come and find me under the name Forge and Foundry. Join my clan, Blacksmith Heroes, and we'll all be legends together. So what are you waiting for? Download Raid Shadow Legends today. Now let's get back to today's episode of the Forge and Foundry podcast. Ellen, give us a little intro.
I'm Ellen Durkan, and I'm from Wilmington, Delaware. And I got into blacksmithing after I paid entirely too much money for my master's degree in fine arts from Towson University. And now I make wearable art and teach other people blacksmith stuff, and also make $3 as an adjunct professor.
And how about you, Derick? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I actually got started with my blacksmithing adventure in high school. Thankfully, I went to a rural college or high school, so we had like ag shops and machine shops and all that kind of stuff, and I skipped most of my classes to go to machine shop and play with the lathes and mills and do casting and all that kind of fun stuff. So directly after school, I started apprenticing with several really fantastic smiths like Thomas Moore, and learned ornamental ironwork, and then I traveled around and studied with whoever would teach me.
Let me ask you a quick one, Derick. I mean, I kind of knew you initially more as a farrier. Is that something that was at the beginning of your blacksmithing career, or was that really something that was just, another facet of it and a good way to make money?
So actually, when I started, I wanted to learn all the facets of blacksmithing. So I actually started with ornamental work, and then I moved into knife making, and I'm like, this is stupid. I need to make some money. So I went to Kentucky horseshoeing school and did their longest program they offered and started shoeing horses after that. And actually, I was like, oh, this is going to be awesome. I'm just going to go in there. It's just like easy forging, whatever. Horseshoes are the most challenging thing I have ever forged in my life.
Well, and I don't know, Tony could probably tell you too, we've both been around a long time, and I have never met a farrier who did not want to quit his job. And I've had that conversation with you a few times, but it seems to draw you back in a little bit.
Depends on the day.
Yeah, any given day, I'm sure. Is it the same for you, Tony? Have you encountered a lot of farriers where you are?
Yeah, the farriers I work with,
they all have bad backs, and they make a lot of money with it, the racetracks and the rich people in Beverly Hills and everything, but they hate it.
I don't see
the racetracks are the worst.
Yeah, I can see that. I don't see that
Those horses
many
are complete psychopaths
who are only farriers, but I think that might be because we see them in the rest of the blacksmithing world. We know that they're very skilled, and I'm sure that there's guys who that's exactly what they want to do, and that's their career. But instead, I think we see frustrated blacksmiths who turn to farrying to do that work to make a little bit more money. Much like I think Ellen probably is an adjunct professor.
Oh, yeah. I'm just rolling in money. I just don't know what to do with all of it.
So, Ellen, can you kind of, walk us through, we know that you have a master's in fine arts from Towson, which is, a university that's local to me. And Lauren, who works here, a lot of people have seen her doing jewelry work. Her husband, I think, was one of your teachers at some point. Was he in that master's process?
Yeah. He was one of my teachers at this school, and he was always like a big supporter of my insanity, even when other people were not so much. So I did start the wearable art series while I was in graduate school, and we did have kind of a half-assed forge in there, but I didn't have any blacksmith training. I didn't have any guidance in that area because it was still pretty fresh, so I was just hitting things and trying to bend them awkwardly. And then the head of the jewelry department was the one that was like, "What are you trying to do?" And I was like, "I don't know." And she was like, "I think you're trying to do blacksmithing. Maybe you should reach out to this craft center in New Jersey, Peters Valley, and they take summer assistants for their programs." And I was like,
was that
sure.
Jan Baum? Is that who you were?
Yeah. She was the one that was like, "Hey, they do craft centers," because the head of my department wasn't.
Yeah, Rick Janney went through that program, and that was who he worked with mostly with Jan Baum. So
yeah, she was super proactive, and she was very helpful in navigating people, even if the people weren't her problem. So if she saw someone that was doing something where she was like, "Hey," yeah, I wasn't technically her problem, but then I became her problem.
And so you ended up at Peters Valley as a student initially, huh?
Well, as an assistant.
Oh, okay.
As one of their summer programs, they were accepting assistants to help out with classes in the blacksmith department. And Dick Sargent was in charge of the shop at the time, and I had basically no technical blacksmith experience. I'd been making these pieces, but I didn't have any trained experience. So I showed up and I was like, "What are we doing?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm in way over my head." So that was my first intro to actual real blacksmithing and coal forging
and is that where would you have met Sam Salvati there at that point, right? Wasn't he?
Yeah. He was taking a class, and I was and then a sword class, and then I called him Sword Kid, and then years later on Facebook, and I was like, "It's Sword Kid." But then I got into blacksmithing pretty heavily after that experience, and then we accidentally backed our way into forging. It wasn't I woke up one day and was like, "Man, this is my calling." I was like, I think there's something here.
Well, I guess I've probably...
And then I took it back to grad school and kept going. And then people were like, "We don't know what you're doing, and we think you should go other directions." And I was like, "I think y'all are wrong." And then I kept going in my own direction.
Well, I think when I first met you were doing a lot of saw piercing. You had done that. I guess you had done a big rough and a skirt where you had, I don't know how many thousands of hours you must have in that work.
Well, I did pierce work actually once I got out of school. So I was introduced to pierce work while I was in graduate school. But when I was in graduate school, I was like, "Nah, this is some bullshit. I don't want to be doing this." And then I guess I revisited the bullshit after graduate school and was like, "This isn't so bad." And then I did a lot of pierce work. And now I look back and I'm like, "That's terrible. I don't want to do that again." So I like to go through phases of different things, so I have an option. So I like doing pierce work. I really like doing forging, obviously. I like doing chasing repoussé. So the more things I can like get my hands into and like combine in different ways, that keeps me
Yeah.
intrigued. And I just going a little bit out of my comfort zone into, you know, possible death areas. It's fine.
Well, I think I've probably been. I mean, we've probably known each other at least 10 years, and there's definitely no question. I've seen a dramatic, and I'm not saying you started in a bad place, but like a dramatic change in how comfortable you are in creating those forms. Instead of kind of thinking your way through them, they just flow from you now when when you've got a hammer in your hand. So it was kind of cool to see you making the transition. I was up there the first day that you were working on Derick's power hammer. It was really cool to see the transition of going to the bigger work. So I think that'll be really cool.
I like the bigger stock. Like,
Yeah.
it's definitely a huge challenge to manipulate the material. Because, like, if you move it in smaller stock, you understand how it's moving. And then you move it in larger stock, it's just you're moving
Right.
more of it. So you can't just be like, let me just tweak it this way. And you're like, oh, that does not move. That does not tweak. But I do like it. It's definitely, like, a very physical challenge for me because just the weight of the material is kind of intense.
Yeah. And it's a lot, with Derick's new location, it's a lot nicer, I think, probably to be able to do that kind of stuff because you've got such a big area. I know that Derick, Derick was saying that he has 6 forges along that back wall, but they're spaced out in such a way. I mean, you definitely could have 2 people on each forge, if not even more, for a class situation, Derick, right? I mean, I don't think there'd be any issue with that the way you've got it kind of laid out, or is that just too much? Do you think?
Technically speaking, I could do that. I think that would get a little cumbersome.
Yeah. Okay.
Just because
There's plenty of space for like 6 people.
If we were using gas forges, sure. With coal, there's no way. Because when your piece is hot with coal, it's hot and you don't have choices.
Right, you got to move. Right.
Also,
right,
it gets hot so fast.
Right, or it's gone. Right.
Yeah. Or it's gone. Actually, that happened.
Yeah.
I taught a little class with some friends yesterday, and they were chatting between themselves, and I'm like, hey, that's going to disappear. And like literally, by the time they got to it, it was just gone.
Right.
So
that's when you clap, and you're like, yay, you made a sparkler.
Yeah, coal's no joke.
Yeah. Yeah, we made our transition away from that just because we're kind of in, clean manufacturing where we're doing the same thing repetitively, and it because the forms are not that extreme, I don't think it makes as much sense for us. And I think Tony's kind of the same way. I mean, we're set up. We have, we're mostly aimed towards charcoal outside of coal. Outside of propane. But I know Tony's got a little of everything, but. I think it's same kind of us, right, Tony? I mean, really, you're really going to propane more than anything.
Well, I use propane because I can't use coal because of the smog in LA County.
Oh.
Yeah. So, we kind of, skirted around that doing a woot smelt and the shell casting burnout with the weed burner.
Right.
By doing it on the weekends, my neighbors from Technicolor and Nickelodeon and,
right.
that didn't complain. But, normally there would be an issue.
Right. Yeah, I can definitely see that. It's definitely something where you have some limitations if you're in the city. Matt Harris, who has that big shop not too far from you, I guess, Derick, used to run they do a lot of coal forging there, but they actually used to run about 50% charcoal, I think, because it keeps it so clean, keeps that burn so clean. But
yeah, I found that running a little bit of coke instead of just coal is really efficient too.
Oh, right, I forgot that you were running coke. Coke is much harder to get in the region, but you seem to have a pretty good source. I remember we were talking about that.
Yeah, sadly, all of the coke ovens are gone on the eastern side of Pennsylvania. They're all on the western side, but it's not so bad. I mean, you just go out have a friend with a triaxle, and you can get as much as you want.
Right. Get a truckload. Yep, work from that. And you have space now if you needed to get a truckload delivered. You're in pretty good shape where you are now.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
4,000 square feet is awesome.
Right, but I've met your
jealous.
landlord too, and your landlord seems to be pretty great. I think you've got a pretty good situation there. So,
It's been great so far.
Yeah. Yeah. And Tony and I both have induction, which works for some things, but I think it's really, at least in the size that we both have, is really something that has some limitations to smaller work. So I'm not sure that like would really work for either one of you, to be honest.
Induction is wild.
Yeah.
I
They
think
are kind of nice. I've worked out of
Yeah.
those before. They are kind of sweet.
Yeah.
I
So-
feel like its sweet spot would be in doing like animal heads. So you could
Oh, yeah.
fixture your head and then use a wand type, and then
Right.
you could heat it and just leave it fixtured. Oh my gosh, that just seems like the most ideal way to use that, because you can isolate your heat so well.
Right.
And you're not completely filthy when you're
That's
done.
true.
You're so clean.
That's true too.
There's no fun in that.
Yeah.
Like I was like, what? I'm not even dirty. This is weird.
Yeah, we have Decker's big twisting machine in the shop now for a while, and so one of the things we want to do is get the remote wand for the induction, and so that we can control
Absolutely.
heat on the twister and do some reverses and some other fancy work with it. I'm really looking forward to trying that. And I mean, you can certainly do it with torches, but you use a lot of gas up versus doing it with electric, which is
Yeah, you'd have to have
so
two
efficient.
people on torches.
Well, you make a cross-cut torch like they use in glass, where you have two torches kind of coming in on angles like this,
Yeah.
and you just walk it around. And I mean, that works very well, but you're using a ton of gas. So, yeah.
Hmm.
Do you have that? Do you have the wand thing?
I don't. But it
up?
is just an attachment that would run. It just connects just like the coil does. So either the small machine
Interesting.
like Tony has, or the 15 that we have would do that. So.
I want to see it.
Yeah, we didn't get the 25 kilowatt yet.
Yeah. Cole has a new 25 watt single phase, and so we're taking a good look at that to contemplate that. Plus, that would do something that I know you're working towards, Derick, with casting. They're not really familiar with the Foundry work, but they have successfully made H13 molten, so over a pound of H13.
Wow.
So, because it's 25 kW, so it's no joke. It's a pretty powerful machine. And in the past, all of those units have been things that you have to have three-phase for. But the new single-phase unit, you don't. So, I know you have
That's
your
awesome.
new building. You have
That's going
tons
to
of
open up
power.
some serious possibilities.
Yeah. So I think we're going to give that a shot. One of the things about shooting man-at-arms, no matter which shop you're in, is we have an awful lot to do in a very short period of time, and so we turn to people who can help us and speed that up, and who have a level of expertise in a particular thing we need to do. Tell us what it was like for each one of you, your first time coming into Man-at-Arms, and whether or not I could keep calling you.
Go ahead,
Derick,
Ellen.
you want to go?
No, it's all you.
What was the first one that I did?
Well, you were here for when we did the Wonder Woman shield, because I remember that you did the gold leaf on that, but you were saw piercing.
Yeah, but
No,
that
you
wasn't.
were here for some big saw
Totally.
piercing, and I can't remember what it was. So
Oh, yeah, you did have me. You had me pierce like a piece of metal that was like 5 inches.
It was thick.
Or
It was-
something. You're like, this will be the trial run, and I was like, thanks. That was minor.
that.
Oh no, we did those snakes. I did the
Oh,
chasing
right.
with
So you
those
came in for the
snakes.
television show. So that was the spear that we made with the snakes on it from Game of Thrones. Right.
Yeah, and I remember you being like, "Oh, there's a snake," and you're like, "By the way, there's two." And I was like,
Oh, and they should match,
two?
by the way.
Huh? Yeah. There was that. So
Also,
I think
there's
that was like the
a
first,
bunch of lions that they have to match.
The Amazon activation that we did with those giant lion heads. I kind of felt bad initially because I knew it was a really serious project, but I just felt like you two knocked that out of the park. That was so fantastic. The builds with those lion heads that were raised in Reposade, I thought they were really amazing.
probably because we didn't know what we were getting into. It was like 7:00 in the morning. It's like, we got to figure out how to build lion heads, and I'm like, I don't. Oh, you got 3 hours, fantastic. Amazing.
Well,
And
you
go.
did it in a week. We had a week there, so it worked out okay. But that was
We did those
that
in
was
4
pretty
days.
fantastic.
I was impressed with us getting those done
We
that
did.
fast. Having no clue what we were doing.
Were we
we
doing
did
other
great.
things at the same time?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that build was crazy. That was such a monumental piece that we had to finish so quickly. Definitely. And then one of my favorite visuals in the more modern Man-at-Arms episodes is, of course, then Ellen, you came right back to do Lions with us again for Godric's axe from Elden
I'm
Ring.
over it. I don't want any more
But the
lions.
pictures are really great, and I'll have to share them with you at some point, and maybe we can put them in here, where you start with absolutely perfect nail polish. And then by the time they're finished, there's just little chips all over and cuts all over your hands.
Yeah, I guess we shot for like the one time that I was like, I'm gonna do my nails, and then Kerry's like, what are you doing tomorrow? And I'm like, well, I guess this.
And a week later, some more of this.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, we did the big stabby moon fork. That thing was big.
oh, that's right. It's actually sitting right here. I'll grab it.
This stabby moon fork. I don't know what it's called because I don't follow the anime.
I'm gonna go with
I just remember.
Stabby Moonfork because
Big stabby
it's pretty
moon fork.
accurate.
Yeah, that was the big stabby. Yeah, the popsicle one where we had to
Yeah.
twist it and stuff.
Yeah, so this was really
remember
fun because
catching-
it was one of those things where you guys, like we did with the Lions, each one of you did one side basically, and then the pieces were combined in the final product. So I feel like that was really fun. That was a really good time.
They are kind of intense days because it's like 7 a.m. to like 7 p.m. And then you can't like work on things.
What do you mean
You can't just like
7
continue to
p.m.?
work on things.
You mean 2
10 p.m.
2 a.m.?
Yes. Oh yeah, there was the one day that it was real long.
Yeah, I have
You were able to go
Yeah.
home?
I have some good pictures of Ellen sleeping on a folding table in the middle of the shop.
Yeah, and sometimes it's usually like, I don't know, the temperature is always like freezing or
Totally
something when we're
freezing.
shooting. Yeah, and I like can't feel any of my appendages.
It's overrated.
I'm extra whiny and hungry. Yeah.
So Tony, you should have her come out and work with you some.
Yeah, and then they're filming and they're like, don't worry, we're going to turn off all of the lights so you can't see what you're doing and you have horrible shadows everywhere, but it will look fabulous on camera.
Yeah, do
You're
a
like, yeah, this is great. I can't see anything.
chasing a repoussé by Braille, with your
Yeah.
eyes closed and just, well, that didn't sound right.
And then I get yelled at every 5 seconds for being like loud in the other room. Every 5 seconds, someone's yelling at me for talking.
Well, Kerry at least followed, I gave him some input when I stepped away from this thing because it was too much for a one-man operation. And I'm normally working on like 12 movies a year, and I couldn't do any of those during Man-at-Arms, so it wasn't a profitable thing for me. But, and it was just predominantly myself. I brought in a couple experts to help. But Kerry had a great crew on hand, and to be able to call you guys come in and match his skill set was
Yeah, it's really, really amazing.
I didn't have that here. Yeah.
I think he just lured us in, and we were like, okay. And then it was like, bam, you got to do these big ass things. And we're like, all right, well, we're here.
Well, I think that kind of works for Derick. I think Derick will do it anytime he can take a huge piece of metal and throw it under the nacelle. I think he's a happy man.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love working big iron. It's the best.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
so satisfying to move up a huge chunk of steel.
Yeah, and I guess you were on the build with where we brought in the twisting machine before and did that big double-sided Damascus sword where they had to match and
The pale spear.
yeah, yep. Oh, and the pale spear,
spear
right?
was-
No, that was another one like that. That's
Pale
right.
spear was like my second favorite project. That thing was amazing. We did a 35-pound billet for that, I think. Damascus
Yeah,
billet.
yeah, it was huge. Yep, consolidated on
Under
the 4
the,
on the 4B.
Yeah, that thing was amazing. Like, I fell in love with that hammer while we were doing that project. I was like, oh my God. look at what we can do.
Right. And
That
so,
was actually
yeah, we actually, we had to bring in a generator to run that hammer because we don't have enough power on premises for that. But we actually have enough power, but not enough three-phase to run it. So Chris Cash has hooked me up with a big variable frequency drive like Jacob Selmer's using. And so we're going to try and run the 4B on a 20 horse variable frequency drive. I'm hoping that it will have enough power. They say that the ability of the VFD to slow start a large hammer, a large motor with a flywheel is very good. So we'll see how it works. It should be really interesting to be able to walk up and
warm day.
Yeah, right. But to be able to walk up and push the button and start and run that hammer like we had it, if we had it in a big shop, would should make it really much more useful than having to bring in a generator every time we want to use it. So,
yeah.
Or you could move it over to Derick's place. He's got 480, 800 amp service.
It has been part of the conversation, but I do have a 5B that could be moved. We were probably going to move it, have Matt Harris take it over, but it could go perhaps to the Kemper asylum instead.
I could be motivated to build a foundation for that. That's for sure.
Yeah, I know that you haven't really worked on any episodic stuff with Tony, but we had you guys on for a bunch of different stuff, and of course Derick has been our kind of go-to whenever we have a big forging project. So maybe we can reach a point where the whole group of us can end up together, because that would really that would be a lot of fun, I think.
That'd be so much
make
fun.
some lion-related
Yeah,
thing.
make some lion thing. God. Yeah, obviously we'd have to do that.
Ellen and I did work together at CBA, California Blacksmith Association deal. This is a corset that she had formed. Is wearable art.
Yeah.
And
It's upside down though. You got to word it on though for full effect.
No, I mean it fits. It fits John when he modeled it, but it's not really my deal. No.
You'll put it around your neck. It'll be fine.
Yeah. So there we go. Look at that.
It's spicy. It gives
yeah.
you good chest room on the outside.
Well, and then I think you told me on 3:00 Saturday that I was making the bra cups for it. So this is what was hammered out for the second to go with your outfit. But blacksmithing events are kind of unusual if stuff doesn't sell for what it should sell. So I was able to bid on this and own a piece of Ellen art. So it's kind of cool. Yeah,
that's great. We when you and I did the Abana Blacksmithing Conference, we ended up buying our sword back because we had created, a multi-bar Viking piece there, and it was just it was one of those things we kind of couldn't let it go. I think we ended up rebuilding it and selling it to Paul DeBro down in Texas. So, Derick, I've been to your new location where you've made a pretty significant move. You had a situation that you thought you had built in a lifetime space and then had to move to a different place. But in the process of that have expanded dramatically and really moved into this, embrace this school movement that's out there. And I'm really impressed with not only what you've done, but how quickly you've done it. So why don't you give us a kind of a rundown on what it is that you're doing and, the size of your space and how many students you can handle and what things are available there for the students.
Yeah. In my adventures trying to find a building for the new space, I was originally going to have a 10,000 square foot space in New York City. That fell through. There was some searching around for other spaces, and I actually landed right in the center of the area I horseshoe in, which is fantastic because it makes my scheduling easy. But I've got a 4,000 square foot facility. Actually, right behind me is the forge hood, which is 30 feet long. There are 6 coal forges along that 30 feet and 6 anvils and 4 leg vices and swage blocks and all the equipment that's needed. There's going to be some gas forges in the near future. It's been quite an adventure. It's been fun. At the moment, I'm only teaching basic classes just because I'm trying to get interest in the school. Actually, Father's Day weekend, I'm going to be teaching the first axe making class. It's just a basic. So it's like a farrier's rasp that's wrapped around a mandrel, forge welded, that kind of a thing. But it's a good intro to making axes. That class is actually a basic class as well as a axe making class, because everyone's like, oh, I want to make a knife. Oh, I want to make an axe. And then they start making an S hook and they're like, oh my God, this is so hard. So I joined the two classes together. So Saturday is the basic class and Sunday is axe making. So they have some kind of competence going into the axe making.
Well, that's great though. So you feel, I mean, you certainly would know, you feel that in a 2-day class like that, that somebody can come home with an axe or be fairly completed with that if they're, if they're competent with tools?
Oh, absolutely. Also, people tend to hustle at these events. It's kind of weird. So I have made an allowance for lunch in every class. No one has ever wanted to stop for lunch, ever. Like, I've been teaching for a month and a half and no one's wanted to stop for lunch. So we're just plowing through. And at the end, they're like, this was so freaking awesome. I actually made something with my hands. So I think it's pretty reasonable to get an axe at the end of the day.
Right. And can you give everybody an idea what is the name of the school and how can they contact you?
So the shop is Damselfly Forge. It's damselflyforge.com. On the website, it's got all of the classes that are currently available. At the moment, it's just basic class and then this axe making class that's coming up. I'm currently working on a tong making class, both a basic and an intermediate class for tong making. And then I'd like to get into some more interesting stuff in the fall with Ellen, because Ellen's going to be teaching. We haven't decided if it's going to be like a panel making class or like a wearable art, but we're going to team up and do that. Hopefully after that or around the same time, we'll do a scroll making class, because there are so many variations on scrolls and leaves and that kind of thing within a panel. It sounds like a good class for somebody in the intermediate range of blacksmithing.
That's great. And there is a power hammer on site. Do you have plans, class wise, where students would be able to work up to that level? You're gonna have like a prerequisite before
absolutely.
They can do that, or yeah?
The prerequisite is you're going to have a class first. You have to know how to swing a hammer first before you use the power hammer.
Absolutely. Right. And
I worked for 15 years without one. So I'm all about hand forging and understanding how metal moves before you get underneath a power hammer and start working it.
Right. And people can definitely go to any of the videos that you're in, the more recent videos from Man at Arms, and see how you swing a hammer. You definitely will be somebody that they can watch and learn from. I think you're one of the harder strikers that I know.
That comes along with being a farrier.
Yeah. I would agree with that because we have Kevin full time here in the shop at Baltimore Knife as a farrier and great hammer control. So we definitely see that. And your shop is in the Dayton, Maryland area. Is that the town it's actually in? So
the shop is in Whiteford, Maryland, which is directly on the Maryland line. I am 2 miles from the Maryland line. 136 is the road that runs past the shop. It's really easy to get to from 95.
Yeah, I was going to say you're close to 95, so you're probably almost equidistant between like Baltimore and Philly, or maybe a little closer to Philly, right?
A little closer to Baltimore, but it's it's an hour. It's an hour and a half to Philly. It's an hour to Baltimore.
Okay,
not so bad.
So, Ellen, I know that you're doing a lot of teaching now, and that is kind of what prompted us to bring you guys on together, knowing that Derick is open to school and that you're very active with that. And so that's definitely something that we want to get into. But I'd love to hear some talk between you and Tony really about your time teaching in South America, because, I just got little snippets of it and I don't know a whole lot. And I'm sure there are some great stories that we have not heard yet. So I'll leave this to Tony to go ahead and take the lead.
Well, we were down there with Jerry Coe teaching blacksmithing skills to some people in a public park with basically barbecues with no heat. Our call to arms on everything was fuego and mas caliente. And we weren't able to accomplish much, but they enjoyed it. But we did go on a field trip, for Ellen to get her organs harvested.
Yeah.
Wake up in a bathtub of ice.
That's what she was worried about.
I was, but I was like, I can outrun Tony at least on this excursion, so they might get him first.
It was insane. We had a Chilean Spanish blacksmith who was staying at the same hotel, and he says, there's this guy has a power hammer. He's close. Let's go see him. So my hip hadn't been replaced at that point, so I'm hobbling through the streets. And I think, what did we take? We walked from the hotel.
Oh, we walked to somewhere, and then we took a train to a bus to a subway to a train to a bus to
to a Greyhound bus.
To a Greyhound to a gas station that I was like, man, we are definitely gonna die.
Yeah, it was interesting.
So the best part is that the whole excursion was 6 hours, and then we got a ride home, and I was like, man, it's gonna be another 6 hours. It was an hour drive, and I was like, what?
Yeah.
We took 18 forms of transportation.
And what was that shop?
Was
that a commercial foundry or a forge?
No. It was a private shop.
It was a 1-car garage with a power hammer that didn't really work. Bare electrical wires.
Zinc. There was the zinc plated forge.
Yeah, it was a galvanized hood that was outgassing yellow fumes as they were heating up the forge. So, galvanic, metal fume fever. Yeah, they wanted me to...
They fed us 400 piles of meat, so it was on top of the forging. They were like, "Here's 18 different animals," which was delightful, except for on top of the zinc fumes. It was spicy and flavorful.
That is definitely crazy.
Here's some zinc poisoning with your meat.
Yeah, it's good. We don't need brain cells. There's one left anyway.
And you left with your kidneys.
Yeah, I mean, I would sell them now at this point. But I would need a higher dollar value. I don't want them just cut out of me. I have standards.
For the 4 to 6 hours on the Greyhound bus, Ellen and John, you were just I'm gonna be murdered. They're gonna harvest my body parts.
I was in the front of the bus too, because I was I can't. I get horribly car sick, which is super fun. So I'm at the front of the bus, being yeah, we're just gonna die.
And I was a couple rows away from you, and you were. I think we're unable to speak quietly, both you and I. So
what? Never.
And Ellen, do you have you got anything particularly scheduled teaching wise or work wise, or what are you doing right now? I mean, I know you're back in your own shop working, but I see that you're traveling a lot teaching, but I really haven't kept up with particular projects you're on.
Well, I'm gonna be leaving for Prague on June 7th to build a rather large outdoor sculpture. And I'll have 5 days to build the piece. So I've been working larger material than I can work in my own shop. So I've been harassing Derick and using his power hammer so I can make a prototype. So when I get to Prague, I have some idea of what I'm doing, and my spine doesn't fall out of my butt in the process. So.
Yeah, I was there I guess the first day you were really on the hammer working one of those big
it's gotten a little bit
sections.
better.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you were moving a lot of metal. Yeah, you were moving a lot of metal. So, yep.
Yeah, it's the stock size is 3" by 5/8, and I'm working 24" lengths at a time for the sculpture, since visually that stock size makes sense for what I'm doing. It's just something I can't work in my shop because I only have a little tire hammer, and my tire hammer would die. But You should always do something completely out of your league in a different country when you only have 5 days to build it. So I'll be doing that. And
Words to
then
live by.
if I don't die in Prague, yeah, words to live by. If I don't die in Prague, I'll be going to Chile to teach a workshop. And then if I don't die there, then I'll be in California doing a conference and a workshop. So this is all hinging on being alive.
Do you want me to bring anything up to Roaring Camp in August if you survive the other?
I don't know. I'll have to get back to you after I'm doing like one thing at a time ish, but 17 things at a time. I don't know.
She's gonna need a spine.
Well, she'll forge one.
I did forge one. I'm working on one at Derick's for this sculpture piece, so I'm excited about this project. It's just gonna be. It is on your floor. I left my spine on Derick's floor, along with the pelvis that I'm working on.
Giggity.
So yeah. So I'm working on some bigger projects that are a little bit different for me. And then I'm also still teaching the wearable art classes.
That's very cool. You know, I know you guys know me as kind of a homebody, and I'm not really traveling much, but that's not the way it's been in the last week. I just came back from Tony's. You know, we're recording today on Tuesday, and I was red-eyed out from Tony's shop Sunday night
on Sunday
into Monday, yeah. And so we're right back at it, and then we actually have an event that we're working together at the end of the month. So I'll be back out in California for that. So I'm traveling a little bit myself too, but yeah. So it's not something I do a lot of, but I definitely enjoy it, and it's been great hanging out with Tony. We just basically spent about a week together, so it was a really good time, and it's really great to see him settled into his new place, which I know it isn't that new to him, but it feels new, having been to the old location, you know, a couple of times, and then coming to the big warehouse. You guys really should check it out if you can end up on that coast, because shop's amazing, and you know he has, you know, we have a really big hammer. He's got a huge press. I mean, a huge hydraulic press for doing you know, really big stuff. How much pressure is that big press, Tony?
The big C-frame, Mr. Squishy Pants,
he is big.
Well, it's 200 tons.
200, yeah. So it's an incredible machine.
But there's an H-frame press in storage outside under tarps. That's 350 tons.
Right.
Oh my God.
And then you were coveting the power hammer under wraps out back.
Beautiful.
In my debris field.
Oh God.
And so that's a 200 kilo Bechet. So that's a 440 pound Ram power hammer.
Yeah, it's
that's a thing
fabulous.
of dreams.
Yeah, it's fabulous.
Yeah.
You have enough power, Derick. You should just buy it from Tony. He wants to sell it.
Yeah, just buy a hammer and dig a huge foundation. It'll only take a couple minutes. It'll be fine. Whatever.
I mean, you've got like all that extra money laying around, obviously, right?
I mean, I'm gonna sell the stuff you left on my floor.
Yeah.
Good luck.
I don't know if I want to keep the Bechet. I really like it, but I've really got my heart set on a 300 weight Massey Clear Space, and there's one in south of Spain right now. So I could flip the Bechet, get that in, and then spend all the money on the electrical and foundation to install the Massey. And then
well, maybe we should
it's
talk
kind of
about
like
power hammers
Derek,
at some
you were
point.
talking. Yeah, yeah. I've got 6 of them outside. It's not as bad as Mike Bondi, and then there's
It makes me look reasonable.
You're totally reasonable.
Makes me look like I'm homeless.
Well, it's like Kerry's shop at Baltimore Knife and Sword is incredible. I mean, I hadn't
Truly
been there
incredible.
since 2011.
Yeah.
And then Kerry visiting my shop, he was just like envious.
Yeah, Derick, you would love it, and Ellen too, because you know Tony. I think it's one of those things where he's around it so much he doesn't realize quite how much history he has in creating tooling. So he's done an incredible number of repoussé and sheet metal jobs where they're repetitive. So he makes tooling, and that tooling fits in, you know, various presses around the shop. that allow him to, instead of making 1 crown, he can make 100 crowns. And
or 380
yeah,
in
380
10 days.
Exactly. So it's
my God.
you know, from that standpoint, yeah, I mean, you guys could really, even I was there and I was like just looking through the tooling and just thinking to myself, wow, this is like, you know, when we do that kind of work, I might make 10 pieces like that and they sit on the shelf for a year, you know, but it's so clear that this is like something that's, you know, really in Tony's mind, like how can I do this and how can I repeat through this to make this you know, a profitable thing. So it definitely is something that's it's really worth coming out to see.
Well, and you know, with you coming out and doing the shell casting and Juggernaut doing the Woots cast, and both of those setups are now in my, you know, debris field in my backyard.
Well, an LA debris field doesn't degrade like a Maryland debris field does. So yeah, it sticks around a little longer.
Well, when Matt showed up and he was going to set up his pavilion, and he's like, "Oh, it's all paved. It's all asphalt.
Yeah.
You know, how do we stake down my tent? You know?"
And you're like, "Why are you putting up a tent? It doesn't rain."
The weather was perfect for this thing.
Weather was pretty good.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. The tooling is like where I get all nerdy, especially with the Ang, because it's an 88. It's Ang 88, and I have accumulated quite a bit of tooling for it, and it changes your world. Like, yeah, you spend a day making tooling, but then you can do so much faster. It's probably my favorite thing to do in the shop is make tooling.
Have you picked up the Power Hammer book of Clifton Ralph?
I haven't yet.
The tooling book?
I have seen it floating around.
Yeah. So I think there's 2 books. One's Clifton Ralph is a DVD. It's kind of difficult to see, but that one's really informative of top tooling for like flat dies. And then it talks into some other things, but
Actually working on tooling right now for Blade Show to make a pile of tongs in like a couple of days, because that's what we do.
Right. Have you taken tongs there for sale?
I haven't before.
Yeah.
So this will be the first time having tongs. I haven't made a knife in a year, like almost a year.
Wow.
Because the move of my old shop like completely consumed me. Like I went through 23 buildings to find the building I'm in. So in that period of time, I just made 0 knives. I was just shoeing horses. So the knives I'm taking to Blade Show are the knives I have. I still have like 15 or 20 knives. It's fine. So I'm taking axes and hammers and tongs. But I spent a day making tooling for the Power Hammer just to make tongs, and it's been a blast. I love making tooling.
Yeah, that's cool. That's like I said. I mean, that would be worth if you ever have a reason or you end up on the West Coast to see Tony's shop, because the tooling that are, you know, and they're there with each of the machines is definitely something I think you'd find pretty inspiring. And a lot of that could translate to Power Hammer tooling. A lot of it's for sheet metal, but a lot of it would translate to Power Hammer. And of course, you're doing some chasing and repoussé work, and you understand. Well, both of you do really understand how to form sheet metal in that manner. So. That's definitely something where you could walk around and just from being there and being exposed to what Tony's done over the years with that stuff, it kind of gives you a lot of ideas, and it gives you a lot of ideas, and you kind of absorb that and bring it back to your art, and I think it would be great for both of you. So I'm inviting people to Tony's shop.
Oh yeah, anyone Kerry invites is welcome. Ellen's been
That's
to
not
my
the shop I was at.
Yeah.
Wait, is it the same shop I was at?
Yeah.
Oh, now Alan's going to say something disparaging about it, so we get.
Well, it was filthy at that point.
Yeah,
I cleaned it up for the forging.
I was just like, he's not going to notice if I like accidentally walk off with some tools. Like he won't even notice it's missing. It's fine.
Yeah.
How's he gonna
500
know?
hammers.
Yeah. How's he gonna know?
Right.
Nobody's gonna know.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. So, but yep. So, Derick, do you feel like you're getting settled in at the new place?
Yeah, it's starting to come together. I'm getting comfortable working here. I used to think I was efficient at the old place, my little 700 square foot shop.
Oh yeah, no, this is good.
But this new space, it's like the energy is totally different. Like the old shop was like, hey, this is kind of a hobby shop. It's like really rustic, whatever. And really, I intended to do mostly handwork there. But this shop, it means business. Like you walk in here, it's like, let's get to work. Let's just rock and roll. And I love it. I absolutely love it. I'm so efficient here comparatively.
I'm sure you guys.
I've really got to get onto setting up my grinders appropriately because they're just kind of like stashed over here in the corner, and it's upsetting. So post blade show, I've got 4 grinders I'm setting up.
Yeah, that'll be great. And as you were saying, like you feel like you're in a more serious place. For us, that was kind of the rebuild and redesign. You know, we came out of COVID, and we just stopped working for a couple of months and tore the whole place apart, changed everything, poured concrete floors, and you guys have seen the difference at my place. It's pretty dramatic.
Your shop is spectacular compared to what it was.
Yeah.
It's got a roof and a floor.
Well, that helps. Yeah. There's no question about it. Doors and
yeah.
Yep.
You're not afraid of drowning.
I miss the wooden floor planks. Exactly.
I definitely don't miss walking the plank.
Yeah.
The planks were my favorite.
We would when it would flood inside the forge area, and we'd have wooden planks down to walk over the puddles. Yeah,
I think we had that for filming a couple of times.
Yes, we did. Yeah, we did.
February.
Terrible weather at some point. And if you go way back on some of the early stuff when we first kind of took the show over, when Tony passed the show off to us, there's actually some shots where there's snow on the power hammers where it's blown over the fence. We had a fence there before we had the back wall. So yeah, it's a little bit different. So the next person we got to get a big upgrade for is Ellen. We got to get Ellen into a big upgrade shop.
I need a real person shop.
I'm trying to talk her into just moving into my shop.
I might. You made the mistake of being like, if you ever need a hammer, and I was like, I do need a hammer.
we have.
Now he's like, are you coming down?
You have an acorn table. I have a power hammer. This could work.
Yeah, that's true. I do have an acorn table. I don't even use the table as much as I should. I definitely use a power hammer more.
Yeah.
See, you
well,
can
ask
move your
Kerry,
shop
what do I
here,
use my
I'll
acorn
steal your
table?
The acorn table is for putting heavy stuff on. All the heavy stuff.
Horizontalitis. Just
and dropping things through all the holes.
Yeah.
That's what it's for.
Well, just remember, people ask you what you're doing with all those tools that you've hoarded. And the answer is, if you have room to work, you have room for more tools.
And cars, right?
Well, yeah, that's different. Look, my garage is full of grinders, so I don't have any cars in the garage, so can't get me on that one.
I started my Kerry Stagmer starter kit. It's I've only got 4 cars. I'm working on it.
I am way behind. I don't have any cars.
Well, Tony's way behind. He doesn't drive.
I've never driven, but Kerry was admiring the Brooks saddle on my bicycle.
Absolutely.
Wait, what? You don't drive, or you never driven? I have questions.
Both.
Do you have a chauffeur?
I'm just in the shop. They come to me.
What? I need that.
So knowing the craziness that it is when we're filming, I'm hoping I still got you guys on speed dial. Like if I'm calling and you're available, still think you'll come back?
I mean, obviously we didn't get any smarter, so yeah.
I'm still in, not because I'm dumb, but because I like to brutalize myself with big iron and hammer, obviously. Sleep deprivation
you gotta
is a
keep
fun
it entertaining.
Game. Yeah, it's part of the game.
Great. Well,
and I'm in.
Well, definitely. And if there's any way, like Tony and I have been talking, if there's any way that we can shoot half a show at his place and half at mine, it would really be great. Depending on travel and stuff. Yeah, we'd really have a lot of fun with it. So, but I mean, I think both of you know that if you were either closer by or didn't have something like this new school going, that you're always welcome, and I would be very happy to have you in Baltimore Knife. You know that, so.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And everybody in the shop feels that way, at least about Derick.
I mean, obviously.
No, we've been very lucky to have you guys come and help us out, and really glad that that's something that's worked out, and we look forward to it. We have a couple projects going on now that I knew would overlap Blade, or you would have already heard from me. So,
well, I appreciate you. I appreciate you not calling me and being like, "Hey, we're doing this thing," because no.
We're actually abusing another person who's going to be at Blade Show, but you'll hear about that before too long.
Oh, good.
Well, we're not.
Yeah, wait. I have to fly to Tony's to do a job with Tony in LA, so I'll miss Blade Show this year.
And I got a pass to get into Blade Show for the first time. And, I'm hanging out here, and whatever we're going to be doing, it'll be fun.
Yeah.
But not in Atlanta.
Yep. Not. When I said to you that I usually have a pass to the show, that's because Derick gives me a pass to the show. So.
Oh, okay.
And then doesn't even make me work his table, which is wonderful.
Right.
That's all right. You get me lunch.
Yeah, it was kind
fair.
Always.
Was a trip on Sunday walking through the Renaissance Fair, knowing people we've both known for the last 40 years.
Yeah, that was
and
neat.
then fans of Man-at-Arms and Man-at-Arms Reforged. And these people were just losing their minds seeing the two of us together, and the inspiration to have them do metalwork.
Right. That was at the Southern California, the Pleasure Fair, we call that, right? Southern California Pleasure Fair.
Yeah.
The Renaissance Festival there.
That sounds like a totally different kind of a thing.
I mean, you've been to a couple of Renaissance festivals. It's not that different. One of the main differences about that show is that they have a very large number of reenactors set up inside the perimeter of the fair, kind of as entertainment, but kind of educational, and it's cool. There's quite a few different groups. I mean, Tony might have a better feel for it, but I mean, hundreds of people though who are there strictly to kind of entertain and educate, people who have more interest in that direction than simply entertainment, sitting at a show or watching the joust or something like that. So it is in that way very different. I don't know that any other show that I'm aware of. I mean, maybe Northern's the same way, Northern California. But when you get out Midwest or here on the East Coast, there's just nothing like that. So in that way, the show is very different, and quite a few blacksmiths, although nothing like really struck me there, as like, I'm not going to disparage any of their skills, but it wasn't represented. I didn't feel like there was anybody there with like high end blacksmithing, but there certainly could have been the skill without it, showing as much. But there were, I don't know, there are probably like 6 forges on site, wouldn't you say, Tony?
There's 3. St. Ives by the front entrance, where they had the coal forge and the great bellows, and then the coal forge and 2 coal forges at the Celt camp, and then the booth had the gas forge where they were selling the pattern welded blades, but none of that was made on site. And then
still it was still kind of representative, which I thought was neat.
Yeah.
So it's enjoyable show, and from that standpoint, with like that many reenactors involved, it had a very different kind of feel to it. It was nice. I thought it was pretty neat.
It sounds very different than the Pennsylvania show.
Yeah, I mean, it would be like if you had the Pennsylvania show, but like an additional third, a number of tents, and they were all like volunteer and reenactors.
That's tremendous.
Also at the show, so yeah, it's pretty different. It was a pretty different situation. So I had seen it before. I guess I was there when I came out filming the TV show. Ilya and I went together, and I guess that was in 2019. Yeah,
I think that's what you said. Yeah.
I'm not sure, because at one point I came out alone to have tacos with Danny Trejo at his restaurant for some interviews, and I think I came to your place, Tony, that time too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah.
That probably would have been 2018 or 19.
Yeah, it had to be right then. Yeah, when we were doing the TV show. All right. Well, speaking for Tony and myself, we're really glad to have you guys on. We appreciate your time. And as we move on, Ellen, if you could just give us an idea of, what you're doing and where you're going from here. And then Derick, tell us a little bit about the school again. And we will talk to you guys the next time around.
Well, I'll be traveling a bunch during the summer, so I'll be doing a conference, symposium in Prague, June 7th. I'll be flying out, and the conference is the 10th to the 14th. So if you are in Prague randomly, you can come watch me die. And then after that, I will be flying to Chile to teach a workshop. And then I'll be heading to California to demonstrate at a conference and teach a workshop out there near...
Clay and Steel, that's Celeste Flores.
Yeah, it's Celeste.
Oh, it's Celeste. Awesome. Fantastic. Yeah. She's a great smith. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you are interested in a blacksmith class with yours truly, I will be there for that. What else? And then if we all survive that, I will go bother Derick, since he still wants me to teach at his school. So we will be working together to promote his classes. I think that's what we're doing.
Great. And Derick, want to just give us a little rundown of where you are and what you see for the school over the next few months and into next year?
Yeah, sure. The school, like I said, it's starting off with basic stuff, but I'm trying to do more interesting things that other schools aren't doing, because there's so many places now that are doing knives and axes and that kind of thing. My specialty is really ironwork from the 1880s, 1870s in ornamental work. So I really want to teach those skills because there's not very many people teaching it. That's really the direction I'm hoping to go in the next year or so, but developing that curriculum is its own beast. So in my copious free time, I'll be doing that. At any rate, just continuing to build the program out. I will be offering axe and knife classes. It's required, because that's what everybody wants, and that's how you get them in.
Right.
You get them, addicted. It's like a drug, this blacksmithing thing. And then Kerry Stagmer is calling you up. Hey, do you want to come forge at Man at Arms? I'm like, sure. It's like drugs. Just got to get a taste of it.
Well, great. Well, I appreciate you guys, and we will be in touch. Whenever there's an emergency, you're both on my speed dial.
Oh, fantastic.
I'll look for the lights in the sky.
That's right.
Kerry
Send the
me.
bat signal.